I think what we have in our culture is an adversity gap, where there are some kids, especially those growing up in poverty, who simply have too much adversity in their lives, and what they need more than anything is some protection from that adversity. And then we have other kids, especially those growing up in affluent homes, who literally don't have enough adversity in their lives. I think that idea that our kids might need more adversity is something that is very difficult for parents to accept. I know when I think about my own son, I feel like there's something deep in my DNA that wants to protect him from adversity at all costs. But I think what I and a lot of other parents are coming to conclude is that in trying to protect our kids from adversity, we are sometimes doing more harm than good. And there's actually recently been some support from in the psychological literature for this idea that moderate amounts of adversity might actually be good for kids. It was a study that came out last year by some psychologists at the State University of New York in Buffalo. They took 2,000 adults and they gave them 2 tests. One was this adversity questionnaire, just this checklist of different types of adverse events that kids can experience in childhood. Not terrible traumas, but things like your parents getting divorced, surviving a natural disaster, someone in your family losing a job. And then they gave these same 2,000 adults this standard psychological test of happiness and mental health. And for the most part, they found the relationship between these 2 results that you would expect. That the people who had experienced all kinds of adversity, who had checked off 12 or 15 boxes on the adversity checklist, they weren't doing well. That adversity had really damaged them, and it was affecting their mental health in a significant way. But then they noticed something curious, which was that there were almost 200 of their 2,000 adults who hadn't checked off a single box on the adversity questionnaire. They hadn't really experienced any adversity at all in childhood. And so they looked at the slope on their graph and they figured, these must be the happiest and best adjusted people in the whole country. But of course they weren't. Their happiness and mental health scores were no better than people who had checked off 8 or 10 boxes on that questionnaire. And the people who were doing best were the ones who had experienced 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 adverse events in childhood. Why is some adversity good for kids? Well, I think it's because it gives them an opportunity to practice failing. It gives them a way to learn how to manage failure.